Sure, but okay. Now, Nicholas, about to my point about the Prime Minister. Here he is, he's the Housing Commission boy. Well, 50 years later, when he eventually retires in 9 years' time, which is 3 elections, don't worry, you'll get a statue for him. He'll end up with $11 and a bit million in his retirement. But today, the bad guys, the Hamburglers, were the one with $3 million.
Yeah, look, I do agree with you, Paul, that our parliamentarians have very generous super reforms, and I do think that is something that deserves to be reviewed. But it's a side issue compared to the real debate here, which is about how do we get that budget balance again? Now, I'm a fiscal conservative, Paul. I always have been. And I believe in the idea that we've got to try and balance the Australian budget. Like, we've racked up $1 trillion in debt after the COVID. And I have always been, actually, Bronwyn.
No, you
And if you look
not.
at what the biggest budget expense is in the budget at the moment, what's the Big Mac with the lot?
Welfare.
It's the superannuation
No, it's
tax
welfare.
concessions.
It's
worth
welfare.
$50 billion a year.
Okay. Hang on,
$50
you're going to checking my numbers
which is
here.
almost as much as
the single largest element of expenditure in the Australian federal budget is welfare.
Paul is right and you are wrong, Nikki.
Well,
anyway,
as I said, the biggest tax concession in the Australian budget is what exists for superannuation. $50 billion a year, almost worth as much as the pension
for being
itself.
deprived
so
of
we've
your
got
wages.
to start doing something about this. And this change that's been made, it's very modest. It's obviously targeted at those who have very, very generous super balances, $3 million and plus. You know, there's people there with $100 million in their super funds. Now they will still get. Now, if you've got $100 million, no, Bronwyn, you can respond to this point. You could have $100 million in your superannuation account, and guess what? You'll still get a concession under these arrangements. It just won't be as generous as the one you get now.
Okay, I want to get
who can complain about that?
APRA has put out the figures that as of March 2022, the total amount in superannuation holdings is $3.441 trillion. And your grubby little mates, the Labor Party, want to put their fingers and their sticky fingers into the money that is being kept there, which is people's wages, and spend it on the things that you think need to be spent on, so that everybody does end up owning nothing and being happy. You are, honestly and truly, you're a nice man, Nikki, but you have to give up this nonsense of being a communist.
All right, okay. So, Michael, again, again, think about where this started.
It's not all rainbows and unicorns. We've got to balance the budget at some point, Bronwyn.
Well,
I'm warming to Bronnie tonight, mate. I'm warming to Bronnie.
So, Michael,
she's hitting that nail on the head.
Yeah, but again, Michael,